Here, let's maybe end the music early and just start talking about it. Hey, welcome to Tabnine Office Hours. Just gonna wait a couple of minutes, let some other folks join here, but see we got one person on live. If you want to introduce yourself, go ahead. And then also wanted to let you know this is meant to be fully interactive with full presentation, demo, QA comments along the way. So if you're catching and tuning in from StreamYard or YouTube or Twitter, Facebook or LinkedIn, just drop a comment into the chat and we'll throw it up on screen and answer it in real time.
I guess while we're waiting here, I'll tell you guys a fun story. I found a spider in my house actually this past over the holiday break. Was about to smash it with the shoe until we got to talking, and turns out he's a web developer and we have a lot in common. So pretty good guy. But then it's my bad dad joke to kick off 2025.
All right, it looks like we got about 7-10 people on now, so let's go and get rolling. So welcome to Tabnine Office Hours. Today we are going to focus on personalization and talk about how to train AI to code like your team's top engineer. My name is Maya Deshmukh. I'm head of marketing programs here at Tabnine.
And I'm Chris Good. I'm product marketing manager here at Tabnine as well. So I'll kick things off here. Let's talk about what is Tabnine, right? Tabnine boosts code quality, developer happiness by automating the coding workflow through AI tools. So Tabnine helps development teams of every size use AI to accelerate and simplify the software development process without sacrificing privacy and security. So Tabnine boosts engineering velocity, code quality, and developer happiness by automating the coding workflow through AI tools customized to your team. And a couple call outs here is one, we've pioneered generative AI for software development and are the originator of the AI code assistant category, launching our first product in 2018. Now Tabnine is used by over 1 million developers across thousands of companies in very highly regulated industries. And then the last piece here is Tabnine also works with more than 600 languages and frameworks and supports all of the most popular IDEs. So yeah, this is just a brief overview. This is all the IDEs that we support, so we will meet you where you're comfortable, right? So whether it's VS Code or Visual Studio or the entire JetBrains family, or heck, even Eclipse, we support those IDEs. And when it comes to languages, we support all of the most popular languages, libraries, and frameworks. Over roughly 600 languages, and are supported currently with an ever-growing list. And we joke around, this is only a handful of them. But the day we figure out how to include 600 of these icons on a slide, we'll let everyone know. But we'll shoot over you can find that within our documentation, a full list of all the languages and libraries and frameworks that we support.
Yeah, so wherever you're coding, whatever language you're writing in, we've got you covered with Tabnine.
So what exactly is an AI code assistant? An AI code assistant is an agent that lives alongside you as you move throughout the software development process. Powered by generative AI infrastructure and aware of your project and code base, AI code assistants can take your plain language for prompts and use that to explain code, generate code, refactor or fix code, answer general coding questions, or even help coach you on a specific language or frameworks, as well as autonomously generate documentation and tests and the not so fun, somewhat mundane and tedious tasks. And the capability of these AI assistants continue to grow, right? Taking on more and more of the software development process and becoming more and more accurate and autonomous in their work. So think of an AI code assistant as a deeply experienced, highly trained software developer sitting alongside you to help you be more successful with your everyday tasks. So we'll go over a few baseline stats here to better understand the real impact of AI code assistants and what they're delivering. And AI code assistants like Tabnine are proven to have a significant impact on developer productivity, engineering velocity, and employee satisfaction. So here's just a few statistics we can share from independent studies. First is that AI reduces developer task time by up to 30% for code refactoring, 45% for code generation, and 50% for documentation. Task completion by developers went up by as much as 15% for medium complexity tasks and 30% for high complexity tasks. And developers reported being happier in their work went up from a 45% without AI to an 88% with AI, with a similar 2x increase in the ability to focus on more meaningful work. And one independent survey of IT pros estimated that they could save more than 5 hours per week by using AI to complete repetitive tasks. And that equates to roughly $15,000 worth of time, $15,000 worth of time, dollars worth of time per IT worker annually. And based on our measures, that is a very, very low estimate of the value actually delivered. So with all of this, it's no surprise that one survey even reported that 78% of companies expect to use generative AI for software development in the next 3 to 5 years. So the benefits to engineering teams are proving to be abundantly clear, right?
Yeah, and like at this point of AI being used in software development, it's no longer a question on, hey, is this tooling really going to give me a productivity increase? Like everyone knows you can get 10x faster code generation, documentation, every single task along the SDLC. But really the question now today is the code that AI just generating of high quality and actually usable? And that's really what we're focused on at Tabnine. And there's two ways that we do that. One is through our personalization, which we'll dive deeper into in subsequent slides. And the second way is through the release of our code review agent, which is the first of its kind. It's a autonomous but human in the loop code review agent that's fully trained on your organization's unique code review standards, policies, governing code performance, compliance, as well as security and readability. And it's a fully customized rule set that we build into this code review agent for you. And it goes and reads the code like a human being in the pull request right now. And then, of course, it's validated and reviewed in terms of the suggestions it's making for fixes by a human. So it's fully human in the loop. But pretty soon now, we're going to shift the code review agent's capability left into the IDE itself. So you'll start to see us guiding the generation of code and all the other tasks that you're doing with AI to be compliant with the organization's standards and policies before it even ships into the pull request. And that's really what we need to focus on, I think, as an industry in 2025 is ensuring high quality code that fits an organization's standards, policies, existing workflows, and code bases is what the AI is generating. So moving on here to the next slide. Really, you're going to see three impacts from deploying AI on your engineering team. The first is you're going to get a faster time to market with all your features and new products that you're shipping. You're going to, of course, unlock more competitive advantage as more and more teams begin to adopt these tools. It's going to become a bit of a situation of get AI or get left behind. And then finally, if you're going with the right vendor like Tabnine, you're going to also reduce risk to the business by governing the AI using our personalization features so that you're generating high quality and secure code with the use of these tools.
So unlike other coding assistants, Tab9 is the code assistant that you control. And what do we mean by that? It's private, right? You choose where and how you deploy Tab9 to maximize control over your intellectual property. And you can rest easy knowing that Tab9 never stores nor shares your company's code. The second is that it's personalized, right? Tab9 delivers an optimized experience for each development team. It's context aware and can be tuned to recommend based on your organization's standards, right? You can also create a bespoke model to train on your code bases. And the last piece here is that it's protected. Tab9's built with enterprise-grade security and compliance at its core. And we offer both indemnification and models trained exclusively on open source code with permissive licenses to avoid any risk of IP liabilities. And in regard to indemnification, by nature, using Tabnine's models doesn't expose you to the risk of intellectual property infringement, but we support Tabnine enterprise customers with that added layer of protection of indemnification.
So the first question I always get from people when I'm talking to them about Tabnine is, can I deploy this privately? And the answer to that is yes, you absolutely can. So you can deploy Tabnine however makes most sense for your business. So we support VPC deployments, on-premise deployments, and we also give you the option of running the system fully air-gapped. Now, should you want to do a SaaS deployment, you can do that as well with our enterprise solution. And with the SaaS deployment, we also give you total code privacy and zero data retention. And we do that by never storing or sharing your code or usage data. We also never train our models on your code or share your code with third parties. Now, when you're thinking about driving and maximizing the performance of an AI code assistant, we kind of have a unique perspective on that. And we like to call it a three-legged stool for driving performance. And there's three elements to it. There is the underlying set of LLMs or small language models that you're using, the AI agents that are layered on top of that to reduce the prompt engineering work needed by your developers to get tasks completed when using the AI. And then, of course, there's the personalization element, which leverages retrieval augmented generation, or RAG. And what's interesting to note about this is we were the first AI coding assistant to introduce model flexibility back in February of 2024. And when we did this, we upgraded one of the models for GPT, for example, from 3.5 to 4.0. Subsequently, we saw a 5 to 15% lift in code acceptance rates from the improvement in model performance alone. Now, if you're paying attention to the LLM space, you might have seen some third-party research come out over the last couple of months forecasting that by 2026 to 2028, LLM providers will have fully exhausted all publicly available training data. You might have also seen that there's more and more LLM models coming out, and they're quickly reaching performance parity in regards to code generation with each other. So what this means is you're kind of going to run into a hard wall with getting better performance out of just upgrading the underlying LLM alone for code generation. So we've kind of seen that coming for over a year now. So we've been focused on building a full set of personalization capabilities by connecting Tabnine into more and more sources of code and non-code information in your organization. And when we released the first level of our personalization in March of last year, which was local context awareness in the IDE, that generated a 40% lift in code acceptance rates. So if you contrast that to the lift from upgrading the model, that's a pretty significant performance improvement. And what code acceptance is really telling you is that a developer has queried Tabnine, Tabnine has generated a code recommendation, has the developer then inserted that code recommendation into their code. So it's a measure of the quality of the AI response. And what we're seeing is with our personalization and agentic enhancements that we're doing on top of the underlying LLM or set of LLMs that you're choosing, these enhancements, of course, are fully model agnostic. That's really what's driving the performance of an AI code assistant today, is integrating and consuming your own organization's data, doing that privately so that no data ever leaves your own infrastructure, and then leveraging the best-in-class available models today to power the chat agents is really how you're going to generate high-quality code when you're using an AI code assistant. And that's what we excel at. So on that note, Tabnine offers total model flexibility. So of course, we have our proprietary model, Tabnine Protected. It's quite a small model, but we recommend using that only if your organization has serious concerns around IP infringement and that you are not allowed to use any third-party LLM at your organization. So if that's your case, we can support you with Tabnine Protected there. Now, if you are approved to use third-party LLMs and you're deploying us on-premise, either through VPC or air-gapped or just on-prem on your own servers, you can connect in any third-party LLM provider that you want into Tabnine with an API call. And of course, if you're deploying Tabnine with our enterprise SaaS offering, all of the models are included. You can choose to use any set of them that you would like and govern that and select the models you make available to your organization. The third leg of the stool is AI agents for every step of the SDLC, which we'll demo shortly. But really, we're thinking about how can we use AI to support your developers at every step along the way of their journey. So whether they're onboarding onto a project, creating code, generating comprehensive test plans, finding and fixing errors, documentation is a really simple and easy workflow with our tool as well. And then, of course, just general learning, like explaining code, as well as maintaining existing code bases. If you've got millions or thousands and thousands of lines of code and files, we handle that very well as well. And then, of course, you can do refactoring and code modernization with our tooling as well. And finally, as I spoke to earlier, the code review agent. So it's a end-to-end process that we're supporting here for you guys. And the reason we actually built the code review agent and launched it last year was that we found that our customers were using our full set of AI agents prior to code review, and they found that they were shipping so much code so much faster into code review that if review wasn't already a bottleneck at their organization, it certainly became one. So this is really a complete end-to-end solution for your SDLC that we can offer you today. And in addition to the agents that we've built, we also give you the capability of defining and creating your own custom commands and prompts. And some examples of that Chris has built are things like custom agent commands to monitor, manage, and update project dependencies. You can automate refactoring tasks. You can, of course, combine our existing agents for multi-step workflows. And you can also point agents at code and non-code sources of information for further context. So going on into our personalization suite, there's really 4 levels that we do here today for you. It's context, connection, coaching, and customization. And each one of these build off of each other. So the more personalization that you do, the better response that you're going to get out of the AI code assistant. So starting with context, this happens in the local IDE. So whatever IDE you're using, you toggle on a button called workspace indexing. At that point, Tabnine begins to consume your project metadata, project files, runtime errors, imported libraries, code, non-code sources, of course, connected repositories, so on and so forth. Approximately 14 to 18 different data points there that we look at. The next level is connection. So what we do here is you can connect Tabnine into your own code base, and we support GitHub, GitLab, and Bitbucket repositories. Setting up the connection is super simple, SSH key, and you're ready to go. You can also connect as many repositories as you want. You can, if you have multiple repository sources, I haven't ran into that yet, but you can do that as well. And there's no limit on that. And then, of course, you can connect into non-code information sources as well, which includes currently Jira and Confluence. And moving on into coaching, our third level of personalization. Go ahead.
I would say we have a couple questions here coming in. One of them is Tabnine. Okay, does Tabnine, do we not store? Their plan Tabnine doesn't store your data or code base in order to maintain privacy.
Yep. So if you're on our Tabnine dev tier, then you're through our SaaS deployment. That's an individual user tier. Your data is not stored. Your code base is not stored. It's all encrypted in transit, and then it's deleted immediately through ephemeral processing for any queries you make to the Tabnine server. Now, if you're doing Tabnine Enterprise and you're deploying it on-prem, VPC, or air-gapped, the entire solution, in addition to the third-party LLMs that you're using, runs on your own architecture, so it's fully self-contained. So there is no data ever leaving your own stack, if you will. So it's basically impossible for us to store that data or access it, right? So that is the best option for highly privacy conscious and regulated industries. Then when was the last update of the Tabnine knowledge base? So I think you're probably asking there about our Tabnine protected models. Those models were last updated last year, but the other LLMs that we use, we continuously update and upgrade those to the latest available model. We also upgrade and add on new LLMs as emerging technology comes out and we see more performant ones being developed and asked for by our customers. And then I think knowledge base is kind of like a general question. So
documentation, maybe our documentation's pretty up to date. we try to make sure there's good coverage there. But anytime anything new is released, there is a lot of content there within the what's new section, as well as then that'll usually direct you to deeper into the docs, where there will be usually videos, screenshots, and more information pertaining to that new feature.
Yep. And then Chris does a monthly release update blog post as well. And then, of course, we always share all that information on our weekly office hours as well as Tabnine live streams. So make it really easy for you guys to stay up to date with what's new with Tabnine. Going back into coaching, this is really where you can add explicit guidance to control how Tabnine behaves, right? Right now, where we do that is with the code review agent and the pull request that will shift left into the IDE over time, as I stated earlier. And really, this is going to continue to expand more and more so you can define and totally guide and tailor the performance of your AI code assistant to your liking. Finally, the fourth level of personalization that we offer today is model fine-tuning. So this is with the Tabnine protected model on the code completions model specifically. And what we do here for you, and this is, of course, only available to on-prem deployed enterprise customers. We take our existing Tabnine protected code completions model and we train it on your code base. And what you get is a totally customized, unique to your organization code completions model that is offered along with all our other capabilities there. Use cases where this becomes really relevant are things like organizations writing code in languages that are poorly supported and documented in open source. So we're talking about things like System Verilog or VHDL for our hardware engineering customers, or organizations with really large code bases in like financial services or investment banking that are also poorly documented in open source. That's really where this can become quite useful. So we've covered privacy and personalization. The last bit here is protection around IP liability. And there's multiple ways we do that today. And the reason you might want to think about this is every organization is going to kind of have a unique posture around the use of AI at their org and how worried they are about the risk of IP liability, specifically from injecting unlicensed code into their own repositories. So again, Tabnine's AI code assistant you control, so you control how you want to do this. We don't make recommendations on it. But if this is a complete non-starter for your organization, then just use the Tabnine protected model. And that is exclusively trained on permissively licensed code with complete transparency on training data. So you can review all the libraries that we use to train that model. Now, if that's not a huge concern for your organization, we really recommend using third-party models. Claude 3.5 Sonnet is what we found is the most performant LLM out of the ones available on the market today for code generation specifically. So I recommend using that. And if you're using a third-party model, we've actually released a new feature called code provenance and attribution that's in private preview with our enterprise customers currently. And what this will do for you is it'll flag and give you the source and license of code generated by third-party LLMs. So just another little data point for you to make a judgment call on whether or not you want to ingest and apply code that's been generated. And of course, for all of our Tabnine customers, you have total protection with indemnification. So you're covered from a legal perspective there. And this is what the code provenance and attribution feature looks like in action. So we're querying Claude Sonnet here. It's generated some code, and Tabnine is checking it against a publicly visible code on GitHub and flagging matches, referencing the source and its license. So you can make a judgment call there on whether or not you want to use that code or modify it if you're concerned about IP infringement on unlicensed code. Of course, over time, what you'll be able to do is through our coaching pillar, you'll be able to set policies on licenses that you are okay with and not okay with using. And that'll take the manual check here out of the equation entirely. Last bit I wanted to touch on before we move on into the demo. Tabnine has been evaluated and recognized by leading analyst firms, multiple of them. Most recently, Gartner evaluated us in the 2024 Critical Capabilities Report for AI code assistants, and they evaluated us against all 12 major vendors in this space. That includes GitHub Copilot, as well as Amazon Q Developer, and some other ones that you're probably familiar with. and we outperformed all of them on pretty much every single measure. So we ranked first for code generation, debugging, and explanation, and we ranked second for code modernization as well as artifact building and testing. We've of course also been validated by Everest Group and OMDIA as well, and performed quite well on those standards too. So before we move on to the demo, there was a quick question that we got that I wanted to get to. So from Armando regarding the AI's ability to adhere to specific organization standards and policies during code review, would it be possible to include a feature that generates reports or summaries highlighting frequent violations of these policies? It does that already. It doesn't export it into a PDF or anything like that, but as we'll show you in the demo, when you're in the code review in the PR itself, it summarizes the violations, the severity, and the frequency of the violations that occurred. So you have that data available to you. And then, of course, there's two ways to train the code review agent, right? The first is by providing us with a natural language document of your rules, which is just simple 1 to 2 lines about each rule. We'll then take that, enhance it, add on good and bad examples, and then train the agent like so. The other way to do it is to point us at your existing pull requests and your golden repositories, and we will extract that information for you. And one of the ways we do that is by looking at the most frequent review comments and the context around those to extract those rules. And that's something we do on a regular basis for our enterprise customers. That's currently a service that we offer. It's included, of course, in your Tabnine Enterprise subscription, but shortly you'll be able to do that yourself through our UI for implementing and updating and changing and modifying your code review rule sets. So let's pass this over to Chris. We'll do a quick walkthrough of the Tabnine UI, and then we'll go and showcase our Jira integration, our Jira implementation validation agent, as well as every single other agent along the SDLC, and close things out with a demo of the code review agent.
Sweet. Let's get started. Okay. Can we? There we go. So let's first go over the UI that the Tabnine UI that folks will be interacting with in each of the agents that you'll find along the way. All right, so you'll see Tabnine's icon here on the left side. Upon clicking that, this is the Tabnine AI chat, right? And you'll be able to see here, starting at the bottom, this is where you'll be able to type in, everyday conversational natural language to create prompts and queries. You'll also be able to, you'll see above that are 5 buttons. Now, each of these buttons you can use to invoke our AI agents, and we built these agents to do more of the heavy lifting for end users to reduce prompt engineering. So each of these buttons launches a different agent. This one, for example, explore code base. If you're new to a project, which we'll show you here in a second, this is a great way to onboard very quickly without having to spend hours reading through projects. Next up, you'll see here, this is the switchable models modal. So these are all the models that I currently have assigned available to myself. But as we've said earlier, I prefer Claude 3.5 Sonnet. However, this is where you can change that. And you can do that at the beginning of each conversation, but you cannot do that in the middle of a conversation with here in the chat. Next up, you will see the test agent. This is under this little beaker icon here within the Tabnine AI chat. This is where you're able to generate comprehensive test plans for your code, which we'll get into later in the demo. Next up to that is your settings cog. This is going to be where you can connect to Jira. You can determine your response length. If it's concise or comprehensive, someone more senior might want something that's going to provide sort of just the just what you need, just maybe the code or the bare minimum within response length for that matter. Comprehensive might be for someone who's a little more junior, who's looking for more of an explanation. Excuse me. Now, below that, you'll find custom chat behaviors. This is where you're able to set higher level instructions prior to even having to type it into the prompt, just from out of the box, right? You can say, respond like a mentor, answer in German, respond in Spanish, so on and so forth. This is where you'll, additionally, this is where you can create custom commands. And very similar to your agents, this is just if you find yourself using the same prompt over and over again, this is where you're able to do that and create these. Very simple name, description, and what the prompt template would be. So let's move from the chat over here into the IDE. The next piece or to the actual lines of code. The next piece that you're going to see here is the Tabnine chat completions. So if we go over here, for example, or the code completions, you'll see as I'm starting to type, not the dropdown, but everything here in gray. This is Tabnine's code completion. So as you're typing, Tabnine will generate contextually relevant code recommendations. It'll automatically recognize the intent. So if you're writing a test, it'll auto-complete the test and so on and so forth. Documentation, comments, code. I'll just X this out here. Next up, you'll see at the top of each block of code, there's these 4 buttons here. Sometimes a 5th if something is broken, that'll say fix, but they all invoke very similar agents to what you've seen over here, right? So you can edit, test, explain, or document this specific block of code. It's more of a way of staying in line and being able to do bigger batch changes without having to leave here. And then the last piece we're going to talk about is the quick commands. So as you're typing on a Mac, you can use Command I, and that'll open up this quick command palette, right? And you're able to use natural language, use the quick commands here. So you can fix, document, explain code, or explore code, as well as be able to change the underlying model for this task. So let's go through a usual cycle for a software developer, going through each phase of the SDLC, starting with plan. Right, so this first stage, it's very important for a developer to understand, gain an understanding of the project, what the application does, etc. So what we'll do here is we'll do explore code base. Now, the code explore agent is a built-in quick action in the Tabnine chat that, whoops, what happened here? Do a little. This is the beauty of live demos and having a lot of tabs running on your computer. Okay, back in action. All right, so explore code base. What the Tabnine Code Explorer agent is doing is it returns a high-level summary of the project's key elements, right, including runnable scripts, key dependencies, and overall structure. In addition to the summary, the Explorer agent also suggests possible follow-up questions about the summary, allowing a developer to dive further into relevant information for their current task. Using Tabnine chat, users can onboard to a new project exponentially faster while reducing the load on their experienced colleagues who will spend less time having to help a new teammate onboard and might ultimately resent that. Now, what we can do here is we see that this is a password generator file or program. We know what's in each file. We know how it ties together. Let's move on to the next phase of the SDLC, which is create. So briefly, earlier on our session, we talked about our Jira agents, right? And there's 2. There's the implementation agent and our validation agent. Now, we've already connected Tabnine to Jira, but if you did not, it's 2 clicks, thumbs up that you want to, you're authorizing the integration, and you'll be connected to your Jira instance. Now, what that means is if we go over here to my board, this is our demo board here, and you can see that there are a lot of tickets on this board, 52 in the to-dos, but specifically there's 8 for me. And when you're in tab 9, we go over here. Let's see, I click this Jira. Well, to click the Jira button, you have to or to initialize Jira, to either click this Jira button here, or you can type out @Jira semicolon or colon, excuse me, and that'll populate this drop down. And what you can see are these are the only showing the tickets that are assigned to me, my user in Jira. So what we'll do here is we'll say implement this ticket. So what tab 9 is doing now is it's reading my ticket's description, it's looking at the acceptance criteria, and it's generating the code for me. Let's see. Perfect. So we're going to copy this. Go in here. Perfect. Now let's go back and let's validate it. So validate this ticket. Cool. And it passes with flying colors. So now we can move on to the next ticket in our queue. So we've added some new functionality, but I can see that, something's broken here in this file. So what we'll do is move into the next phase, which is fixing, right? So we'll use the tab 9 AI chat to help us find those errors. We'll say, where are the errors in my, or let's say, what are the errors in my generator? And what you can do with tab 9 chat is you can reference by typing @ and you can reference files, functions, classes, methods. But what we'll do here is generator.java. Probably something silly, but let's just find out. Oh yeah, there we go. Should be a console and there's an extra C. So what we're going to do here is go up here to tab 9. We're going to use the tab 9 code lens. I'm going to say fix. Awesome. Accept this change. All good. No more errors. So the next piece is that we're going to, we have to test, right? And we're going to use the tab 9 testing agent to generate a comprehensive test plan. And there's a handful of ways to access this, right? You could test specific code blocks here. You can generate tests within the the building quick actions from a clean slate chat, or you can use the test agent here, this icon. That's what we're going to do today. So what we'll do is we're going to generate, we're going to click, we want to generate a comprehensive test plan. So we'll select the code. We're going to do this generator file. Let's see here. You know what? I'm going to move back just because I don't want that to. Okay. Let's just do this. Okay, generate test plan. We'll select all this code, click continue. Now, if you do have a test file and you just want to build upon that, you can reference that within here. You'll click browse and whoops, and you can load that test file. Or if you don't have a test file, excuse me, you could browse and click load there. If you did have a test file, you could click browse and it'll go from your drop down here. In this case, I already sort of do, but we're going to say no, we don't. So we can just go through it start to finish. And now it's going to create it's going to generate a comprehensive test plan with detailed test cases for different functions, methods. It'll automatically generate test cases covering a wide variety of scenarios. We can see here the description of these in plain English. Now, let's say we want to pick this first one, generate the test. Let's do insert. Do this one as well. Insert. Now let's say that you wanted to, change, return a score of 2 for a password with uppercase and a lowercase less than 8. We'll say you can make changes, right? This is just a starting point. So you can say that change lowercase letters less than 7. Cool. And we'll hit insert. Boom. Now we have a test plan. Now there's clearly a lot of red here, and we won't spend the time fixing each of these on this live demo session, but it's just probably adding a few imports here or just asking Tabnine AI to help clear up with some of these errors. And it's a very similar flow of just clicking apply and going through that. Now we've added new functionality. We've documented it or tested it. Now it's time to document the code, right? So let's move over here to, let me just move this. All right. Let's move over here to the generator.java file. Okay. So we can use the Tabnine code lens here to document. One of many ways you can document with Tabnine, sort of it's where you feel most comfortable. If you want to be inline, you can do it all inline using quick commands. If you're okay with using the mouse, you can use the code lens, or you can even go over here to the Tabnine chat. But let's see here. Actually, we're going to go document. Not sure what happened there. Whoops. Computer does not like me today. Interesting. Okay. What we're going to do here is I'm going to move over to this guy. Okay.
Hey, Chris, with the documentation, you can accept the change with a key command. So as you were hovering over it, there's the key command that popped up. You're on the Tabnine Alpha build right now. So little that our engineering team pushes in real time to Alpha.
So you can quickly generate documentation there by using document and then just hitting accept the change either with the key command or by your mouse. Now, let's just take it a step further. Let's say that you don't want it above, right? Some folks, myself included, sometimes prefer it documentation to the right of each line, right? So what you can do is say refine this request, say generate documentation, to the right of each line than above the code block. Would help if I could spell correctly, but We should be okay. Perfect. Not sure why I didn't like that one, but interesting. Okay. So let's just keep on moving on here. So we've went through each step of the SDLC, right? We've created, we've fixed, we've tested, we've documented. Now it's time for the last piece, which is to maintain. And when you're using Tabnine, you want to continuously improve your applications, right? And Tabnine can be a great source of ideas for you to do that. So what we can do here is ask Tabnine to generate 10 ideas that improve security and performance for my password generator app. Now what it'll do, perfect, is let's see, implement a secure random number generator. That is actually a good one. That's a rule that we enforce in our code review agent, which we'll get to here in a second. And you can even take this a step further, right? You can't actually create tickets from Tabnine in Jira, right? But you can then ask Tabnine to say, hey, I want you to help me create Jira tickets with descriptions and acceptance criteria for each of these, right? And what it will do, we'll do just that. And you can then copy and paste those into Jira and go through the same flow again, right? So create Jira tickets with descriptions and acceptance criteria. And this can also be a great way, in my opinion, to standardize or add at least more clarity to your tickets for each of the suggested improvements. Certainly. Love the positivity with Claude. So there you go. It's provided them. You now have the code above as well. Now you can implement and go through the same flow. So this last piece we'll cover now is the code review agent, right? So let's move over to our rules interface here. So this is going to change a little bit in the upcoming months, but the general concept is the same, right? What this is this rules interface this is where you can visualize and fine tune your rule set, right? So this is where you'll see the predefined rules that Tabnine or by Tabnine, as well as all of the rules that align with your organization's unique standards. This is where they'll all be stored, right? So as Maya said earlier, you can use a golden repo, or you can provide a bunch of simple plain English rules, and Tabnine will ingest and create the rest of it. And some of these, or a lot of these rules, or the predefined ones, for example, they're all, these come standard with Tabnine Enterprise, and it's all been gathered and evaluated, implemented based on software best practices that we've learned from leading voices in our space, right? So you'll see here when a new rule comes in, it'll provide good and bad examples. You'll be able to select the library as well as the category, as well as determine severity, if it's on by public default, if it's enabled, and if there's specific user IDs or groups that you want this to apply to, right? And moving to the PR side, when a developer makes a PR or MR, Tabnine will review the code in that PR MR against your rules and flag deviations, offer suggestions, how to fix that code, right? So you'll be able to see the code in question, the rule that's violated, and the suggested revision. And that'll be for each MR or PR. And it's great because some of these things we might not think about too often, but don't hard code sensitive information, such as API keys and passwords. That's a big no-no. So it's great to be able to collect or to catch these at the PR level. And I will say, moving forward, we are not far away from the code review agent being integrated into the IDE as well. So you will have the ability to review prior to that MR or PR. And then the last piece here, I know we touched on this earlier, but there is going to be a summary report, right? So you'll be able to see 7 functions within 3 files. It's a high-level overview of critical issues, errors, warnings, suggestions that you'll be able to take and to use further. So I believe this is it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Any questions we have coming in or anything that I can.
Yeah, here I wanted to show Henry something. So I'm just going to grab a screen here.
Yep.
So Henry, you had a question on if you're talking Spanish, will you get the same results? So what I did here is I went and I set a custom behavior to answer in Spanish. I'm going to go here now. You'll have to forgive me. I took Spanish in high school, but don't remember much of it. So let's try this. Donde estás code base? That probably isn't something you would actually type in, but that is the limitation of my own Spanish language skills. And you can see here Tabnine's responding in Spanish there. So now your next question was, what's the difference between comprehensive and concise, right? So let's maybe go over here and open up a new chat window. Let's go back to Claude. So here I've got it set to concise response line. I've selected my code and I'm going to ask it, what does this code do? So here is an example of a comprehensive response. So now let's go and, oh, sorry, excuse me. That's an example of a concise response. So now let's go and see what comprehensive looks like. Let's open up a new chat window here and so you see it's just given some more details about input fields and some additional information in the code. Now, granted, this is a pretty simple example as I actually don't know how to code, but I've been able to start using Tabnine to build applications for various demo videos I'm producing. So this is one I started working on yesterday to do a stock analysis app with a front end and back end using React and Node, as well as a third-party API. But hopefully that answers your question there. And your next question was, is there only a Jira integration or an Azure integration is also possible? So today we only have a Jira integration. However, long-term Tabnine is going to integrate into more and more tools into your DevTools stack for code and non-code sources of information. As you can see from our social models capability, as well as our code base connection, we're fully agnostic to the tech stack that you're using, right? So if you are in Azure, eventually we will have an integration for the Jira type of functionality for that as well. Sweet. And that is it for things we've prepared here for office hours. So open floor for Q&A and questions and additional demo requests.
So I see. Oh, well, there we go. Clear question regarding chat-based interactions and code sharing.
Does each interaction require sharing the complete code base every time? No, it doesn't. So the way that context works is you turn on local workspace context, you turn on your code base context. we don't just send the entire workspace over or the entire code base over to the LLM. So really what we're focused on doing is sending the right information at the right time for the right task at hand. Because even though you'll see in the LLM's documentations that they have these massive context windows, we found that more information is not always predictive of a better response. So think of it like you were teaching a developer to do something and you could one give them like a step-by-step concise guide on how to do it and then let them kind of figure it out from there and just give them the right information for the task they needed, or you could overload them with every little bit of information possible. So what we found is that actually just using our RAG modeling to give the exact right amount of context at the right time for the task at hand is what is producing better results in terms of code quality and response. So your other question there was, would it be possible to obtain an architecture diagram illustrating how this interaction process functions? Yeah, we can certainly do that and share that with you. You can also book time with one of our solutions engineers and kind of do a deeper dive into it. But I think what's also important to note here around sharing things with third-party LLMs, right, is if you're deploying Tabnine on-premise and you've got your own API endpoints for these LLM providers, no information is ever leaving your own tech stack. So there's really no concern around IP liability from exposing your code base to the LLM if they're on your own architecture. Now, if you're using Tabnine SaaS, you're going to be subject to each LLM provider's unique code privacy policies and standards. So with Claude 3.5, you have to explicitly opt into allowing that model to retain and train on your data. So by default, anything you send and use with Claude 3.5 Sonnet is not being exposed to the LLM provider's training data set. So you're covered there. I can't speak to the other providers' policies. I'm not super familiar with them. I think OpenAI has something like a 28-day data retention policy, after which it's deleted. I'm not entirely sure why they retain it for that long, but that was the latest when I looked into it a couple of months ago. So it's something you'll have to do your own research on there. But our recommendation is if you're privacy conscious, just deploy us on your own infrastructure.
So we have another one from Armando, and I can show you here. I'll add this to the stage real quick. You can do improvements at the architectural level, right? So we were just showing security and performance in the beginning of this, but I just wanted to show you that, yeah, preloaded, it does come with architecture rule sets as well. One of the ones that we do cover: architecture, correctness, security, compliance, performance, readability is another one that comes preloaded. I believe that's probably it. Yeah, those are the big core ones there.
What about the LMs? When do I have to use Claude 3.5 or GPT or Mistral or the default model of Tabnine? So we don't make like recommendations specifically on what model each developer should use or what set of models each organization should use. Really, Tabnine's about customizing the entire AI platform to your unique organization's posture, policies, and the way you want to use AI. So you can use any of the LLMs we offer. If you're doing our SaaS deployment, all the LLMs we offer come standard in the enterprise SaaS offering. And then, of course, if you're doing a private deployment and you want your LLM on-prem totally private as well, you would need to go and acquire your own endpoint to facilitate that and deploy that in your infrastructure. In terms of LLM performance overall, we released switchable models in February, and since then, what we've seen in our lab testing is Claude 3.5 for all of 2024 was the most performant model across the SDLC for all the use cases with our agents. So that's the one we recommend using. But hey, every engineer's got their own preferred LLM. We found, I was just on a call this morning with a large engineering team based out of Europe, where Some of them like using Command R, some of them like using GPT-4o, some of them like using Mistral. And Tabnine gives you the flexibility to let your team use whatever they want, and set that policy at organization level as well.
See here, I'm trying to think if there's anything else we can show or that we might have skipped. Can you bring your own model? And what is the process for that?
Yeah, you can bring your own model. So the way that works is we offer that for our self-hosted deployment Tabnine Enterprise customers. So if you have your own set of models on your infrastructure deployed already, we just connect those into your Tabnine instance for you, and that all lives on your own infrastructure. So yeah, I think I've probably said this in one of my LinkedIn videos that's running. To use Tabnine, if you already have LLMs pre-approved at your organization that are deployed on your stack, you don't need to go out and get some more LLMs. Like, you could just use the ones you already have and plug them into Tabnine. And if you were to go and create your own LLM or SLM and deploy it in your infrastructure, as long as you can do an API endpoint, we can connect it into Tabnine for you, and you can use it to power your chat and offer it along with any other models to your team. That's a great question. Is, I think we're going to continue to see more and more small language models come out that are highly specialized. I think last year IBM developed one specifically for Cobalt. So LLM flexibility, super important. Is there a big difference using Tabnine's coding assistant in different IDEs? For example, I tested Copilot in VS Code and IntelliJ, and there is a big difference. So all of our IDEs that we support officially with our plugins have really good performance across the board. The one that probably doesn't so much is Eclipse. And then there are community generated plugins for IDs that we did not show on the slide that we do not maintain, or kind of maintained open source by the community and not updated by us. So if you're using IDs outside of our documented support ones and you find a plugin for Tabnine for it, that's just something that's out there that we don't really recommend using. Is there a big difference in terms of results? So, I think one of the big differences between us and Copilot is not agnostic to your tech stack, right? So if you're a full end-to-end Microsoft shop through and through, look, you'd probably just go with Copilot. They're going to give you a honeypot deal on it, and it's just going to be at a no-brainer price. But if you're using Copilot already and you're a Microsoft shop and you're unsatisfied with the performance of it, that's probably a good time to check out Tabnine. I can tell you that one of our customers is Tesco currently. They're using us, about 750 developers, and we went head to head against GitHub Copilot in evaluation there, and we beat Copilot across the board. And we do that over and over again. So if you're looking to switch, come try us out and do a proof of concept evaluation with us, and I'm sure you'll see much better results. And the reason for that is our retrieval augmented generation and our personalization capabilities, as well as our agents, are probably the best on the market available today. And that's also why Gartner ranked us much higher than any other provider in the space.
My microphone's attached to my boom arm, but if I could drop it, I would. That's a Any more questions? Maybe we'll hang out for another minute or two and then can drop off. Now, remember, now is not the only time. We'll be here again next week at 7 a.m. Pacific time. These do happen on a weekly basis.
So we actually won't be here next week because we,
Oh, yes.
but we will be back the week after that every week.
Correct.
So,
Correct. The
of
1
course,
week year.
feel free to connect with Chris and I on LinkedIn. You'll probably see a bunch of videos from us popping up in your feed, and feel free to reach out to us with any questions. And we're always happy to hop on a Zoom with you guys and take your team through Tabnine and do this again with them. Thanks for joining us, Henry. And Amaya, love the name, by the way. Great name, Amaya. Alrighty. Thanks, you guys. Have a great rest of your Wednesday. And hopefully you guys are all getting back into the swing of things after taking some time off for the holidays. See y'all in the next office hours.
Cheers.